Collaborative leaders, welcome to the Collaborative Leaders Huddle. I'm Craig Ross, CEO of Wrapup Global. Excited to have you with us, big or small. We've got a big conversation today. I'm really excited about what we're going to be discussing today as we move through yet another Collaborative Leaders Huddle, an opportunity for us to have an unscripted conversation with leaders who are in it, right? They're in the trenches, they're making things happen for all of us, and they're modeling the values that you and I hold dear. That is activating the best in one another through collaborative efforts. Let's go ahead and introduce the team here this morning. We, of course, have this entire experience sponsored by Wrapup Global, where we truly believe that aligned teams are not just important for delivering to customers, but it actually hurts our employees. It hurts lives when organizations are not functioning in a aligned manner, and of course, are not collaborative. So that's what we're passionate about doing at Wrapup Global. Our team today, I'm joined by the one and only Sherilyn Jane, our Manager of Design and Delivery, inspired human being. Sherilyn, you want to say good morning to our huddle?
Yes, hi everyone, welcome. I did post in the chat, we're recording this today, and we'd love some of your questions for Simon and Craig. And so if you want to ask a question, just go ahead and post that in the chat and I will call on you. And if you want to remain anonymous, just send me a private note and I will read your question aloud.
It's one of my favorite parts of this entire process, and we've moved through these huddles nearly 2 years now. This opportunity to engage the network of collaborative leaders with your insights, your questions. So looking forward to hearing those as we move forward. Simon Yiannopoulos. This is another extraordinary human being that has a vision for leadership that certainly resonates for us at Wrapup Global. Not just brilliant, technically, and an understanding of the skills required to lead and succeed in his area of work, but also in a manner that develops better human beings, better cultures in the process. As you can see on the screen, Simon works for a company named Jabil. Perhaps, and I've learned this from Simon, perhaps the largest company you've never heard of. I'm going to ask Simon a little bit about that in a moment. He's a senior director of supply chain management. And one thing is true, supply chain, it's not your grandparents' supply chain anymore. Things have rapidly changed. We're going to be talking a little bit about that. Even if you're not in supply chain management, newsflash, Simon's got news for you. Actually, you play a role. And so how do we, of course, succeed in that effort? We'll be talking about that in a moment. Simon, please say hello to the network.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. I'm really excited to impart some wisdom potentially with Craig. Thank you.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Thank you, Simon. Simon, Jabil. Who's Jabil? Come on, the largest company I've never heard of. Quickly,
Sure.
What's Jabil?
Yeah, thanks, Craig. So Jabil is a contract manufacturing company. We employ roughly 260,000 people across the globe. Essentially, we make products for other businesses. The markets we service are very diverse. We do things like circuit boards, is where we started in Michigan, 50 plus years ago, and then expanded into other areas. So we'll do consumer electronics, hardware, medical devices, packaging, defense and aerospace, really diverse set of markets that we service.
You say diverse, and I think some of us here complex, which of course makes the work of leaders like yourself so important. Supply chain, let's talk about that just very briefly. Again, I think most of us have a general understanding, okay, supply chain, but what's supply chain today? What does it mean to us today?
Sure, yeah. So there's a couple of, base pillars when we talk about supply chain, and it's really about getting the right materials in the right place at the right time at the right price. So, understanding the diversity of the markets that we service at Jabil, everything that we make is built on a set of raw materials or components. And it's, in the vicinity of 17,000 suppliers across the globe that provide all of the materials to make those products. And, interesting in it that, even though you've probably never heard of Jabil, I can pretty much guarantee that you've used one of the products that we make. whether you use a phone, a mobile phone, whether you drive a car, whether you have anything smart in your home, there's a really high chance that Jabil made that.
All right, which makes this conversation even more energizing for me, and I'm sure several in our network. One more question before we get to the big question that I know everyone's looking forward to addressing. This supply chain work today, give us an image, a glimpse of what it's like to be in your world. I have to share some context. One of the things I'm excited about, our family recently moved, and we thought a brilliant idea of, hey, a chance to kind of start over. So we got rid of a lot of our furniture, thinking that when we got to our new home, we'd buy new furniture. We're currently using lawn chairs around our dining room table because we can't get the chairs that we really want. The day of having 2-day delivery seems a thing of the past. What's it like to be in your world, Simon, right now, supply chain?
It's a very crazy time and has been for a number of years now. You know, the complexity that we're adding into our products and making everything smart has placed some large constraints on the marketplace for some of those raw materials. So things like chips, computer chips, and being able to source those, and semiconductors. It's really difficult to get those. We're seeing longer and longer lead times for these materials, which means we end up stockpiling a lot of products that can't be completed. If any of you have seen that picture of the Ford factory, where there's thousands of F-150s that are sitting in the parking lot because they can't get the semiconductors to finish those products. So it's a real juggling act these days to maintain those strategic relationships with your suppliers to ensure that you're at the head of the queue when it comes to sourcing those parts and making sure that you can complete the product on behalf of your customers. And it takes a lot of legwork and a lot of relationship building to ensure that you're getting more than your fair share when it comes to those supply chain elements. And I think there's very few people in the world today who haven't been impacted by these supply chain constraints. Thinking about getting something shipped, that we're currently in, I would call it Shipageddon. It's very difficult to get things from one location to another. Our shipping containers are scarce. They're in the wrong locations. The costs are just increasing up and up. There's impacts from COVID in terms of being able to process packages at the ports and places of entry into different countries. It's a really, really challenging time to be in supply chain.
And with that, perfect context for the big question, which we of course will be focused on in our short time together today. Whether I'm immediately a part of supply chain management or in the ecosystem around it, how do I as a leader focus on tomorrow when today is so important? I'm having a hard time delivering on my numbers, my targets today. Yet I know as a leader, my future depends on my ability to of course, create a stronger tomorrow. How do we do it, Simon?
Yeah, I think there's a number of things at play here, right? We absolutely still have to do that firefighting mode when we're in it, and we're in it often. But we also have to keep an eye on what's happening down the road in the future. Living in a time of such technological advancement and working in a high-tech field, there's so much potential for disruption. And one of the things that I talk about is the compressed life cycles of products. And I'll give you an example. In the medical device field, a product, you might be making the same product for 7 to 10 years with very few changes. But the underlying technology that goes into that product is rapidly evolving and changing over time. Now, that device that you had a steady revenue stream for 10 years is suddenly, there's a new player that enters the market that builds in a new capability, a new sensor, more personalized healthcare. Things are moving to our phone, getting miniaturized. They don't have to go into a treatment center anymore. These are the kinds of disruptions that we need to keep an eye on. So what we do is look at, okay, these are the materials that go into your device. How likely are those elements to become obsolete in the future or ripe for disruption? And what we're seeing is that those life cycles, instead of being 7 to 10 years, are more like 3 years. So you can understand the impact of that technological advancement and how we need to compress everything into a shorter window before we're going to be disrupted. So a lot of the work that we do is say, okay, you need parts to make your machines today, but at the same time, you need to be looking down the road and saying, how ripe am I for disruption? How do I need to change those elements within it and modularize my product so that I can have a steady revenue stream down the track as well?
So if we're doing annual planning, right, most organizations we're planning for 2022. And then, of course, we got to make sure that that's aligned with our 3-5-year strat plan. What happens if someone raises their hand and says, so what's the point of making a 5-year plan? I mean, come on, if it's the product is going to change and even the resources required, if it's going to change that fast, the life cycle is that compressed. If I came to you and said, so should I stop doing my 5-year plan? What would you say?
Absolutely not. You should absolutely continue with that 5-year plan and that 5-year vision. What you're needing to do is make the whole thing far more resilient, and instead of being reactive to changes that are occurring in the marketplace, you need to be looking further down the road, because to redesign a product, it could take up to 12 months to do that redesign work. And if you're suddenly disrupted, you've now got a 12-month window where your product is no longer competitive in the marketplace. So you have to make sure that you're building in that resiliency and adapting to anything that's coming down the road. That's kind of where I see, the value of a company of Jabil's size and the diversity of our markets. We see that technological advancement in one market that can be applied to another. So, being in around consumer electronics and phones as an example, the elements that go into phones change every 12 months. The life cycle is very short, but we see that trend happening. We can pick that up and apply it to something that has a longer term life, like automotive or medical devices. Okay. So it's about leveraging that knowledge.
So leveraging the knowledge. I know several of the collaborative leaders that are joining us today in our network, and we all play different roles in the organization. From where I sit in the organization, again, generally speaking, no matter where we sit, what can I do to contribute to a resilient plan then? What can I do, no matter where I'm at in the organization, contribute to a resilient plan?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes to leveraging the people within our own organization and also the extended network. We can't solve all the problems by ourselves. We need that input from our suppliers and our extended networks to contribute to that overall plan. And I think, one of the elements that I use on a regular basis and kind of why I'm so excited about this partnership with Veris is I use something called a recipe for partnership to drive that engagement with my people, to have them thinking about what's the value that we're creating today, what are the suggestions we can incorporate into our plan to drive even more value. And there's a lot of strength that comes from that diversity of thinking and the ability to call on people who are at that coalface position, who understand the one-to-one relationship with the supplier, or they have a really in-depth knowledge of a particular commodity or technology. We need to leverage all of those people to come up with the best plan possible. It's not me sitting in an ivory tower twirling my mustache thinking deep thoughts. It's the people who do the work each and every day are the ones who provide the most valuable contribution, in my mind.
All right. Cheryl, I'm going to come to you and see if we've got a question or thought from our network. As we do that, Simon's referencing the recipe for partnership. For those who might be new to that 5-step process, Simon, I think it's ideal when you think about the collaborative efforts to create resilient plans, a strengths-based approach to identify first what's working, what are we doing well on this project, on sourcing this product, so on and so forth. And then, of course, how have we done that? What's created those successes? And then, of course, the third step, okay, what's next? What's the vision from here? What do we need to achieve? Why is it important? Of course, how do we get there? We'll follow up with the network perhaps and share that tool as a follow-up to everyone. Sherilyn, let's go to our network. What do we have for perhaps a question or thought?
Yeah, I did get a question come in that I'll read. The question is, I know preparing for the future includes developing my people, but I don't have time. What's your advice?
I'm going to say we're all constrained by, the time crunch and delivering each and every day. But something I make very clear with my people is that we also need to take the time to do that education and invest in ourselves. I think, something that breeds loyalty and longevity with a company is the investment you make in your people. So personally, what I say to my people is I want to see 10% of your time each week that goes into your own personal development. And that can be anything you want it to be. It doesn't even have to be specifically related to the job you have today. It can be around what other interests you have. It could even be time out, go for a walk, enjoy some nature, come back refreshed and energized. We need to, honor the commitments that we make, but I need to make sure that we're investing in our people at the same time.
Simon, I'm with you 100%. Is there also an opportunity to reorient our daily interactions as well? I was with the leadership team last week, and this conversation, similar to the question we just heard from the network, came up around, hey, I just don't have time. Well, what happens if we reorient and reframe our daily interactions? Now, I have the pleasure of interacting with you, here fairly consistently. And I feel as though when we interact, I'm always being heard. I'm always gaining insight. I'm always being validated. I want to use this word. I hope it's not too big. It doesn't feel transactional when I'm with you. And so it's not transactional. Could we declare that it's transformative? I don't know about that. But it definitely doesn't feel transactional. What do you think about that? Is there an opportunity for us to say, hey, time out. I don't need to be a computer, even though we're working with a more digital world, right? I can still be present in each moment and therefore develop the people around me in that manner as well. Is that realistic?
Yeah, I think it's a really valid point. I was saying this earlier. It's been a year and a half since I've seen anyone from my company face to face. Imagine what that's like for a brand new starter in a company that doesn't have those existing relationships to leverage, and everything has moved to the virtual world. It's very tough. And I think one of the additional challenges in moving to this remote world is the potential to multitask has increased significantly. And we're all guilty of it. I would challenge anybody who says they've never multitasked during an online session with the camera off. But I think it's really important to ensure as a leader that we are being authentic and listening and paying attention when we're engaging with our team members or others. It's being transactional is not the way to build relationships. And if you're able to connect with people on more than just a transactional basis, you're more likely to drive the outcome that you need. Relationships are key in any organization. They're absolutely key in supply chain. And to be able to have that, authentic interaction often is really important.
A reminder for our network, those of you who have joined us for previous huddles, when we get to the end of our time together, we'll be asking everyone to share their insight in an instant. that might be one for me. This understanding that we must seize everyday interactions to build the relationships, which are required, of course, for, as you mentioned, the alignment, the ability to build resilient plans, that network of leaders that we'll need for a better tomorrow. Let's come back then and summarize. I want to come back to the person who asked the question as it relates to our big question: how do you focus on tomorrow when today is so important? And this individual said, I have to develop my team. Do you commit a percentage of, I hate to say budget, but do you quantify how much you're investing as it relates to, I know we got budgets for it. So if you think about how people are spending their time, that's where I want to drill down, and developing the leaders of tomorrow. Can you quantify that in some respect for us?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily about the dollar budget for, formal education programs. I think it's more about giving people the space and the time to be able to grow and develop, and having, genuine discussions about people's, hopes and dreams for the future. Certainly, one of the things that I aspire to do as a leader is I don't want people to feel that they're forced to stay with me. I want them to have the opportunity to grow and develop their careers and go wherever that takes them. Sure, that adds to disruption in my own team. It might make trouble in terms of delivering on goals, but at the end of the day, I really want people to grow and develop and become leaders themselves through the organization, because it's those experiences of people who grow up through the company that they're the true drivers of value. I was saying this morning, Craig, we have really tenured people in management positions, and they've all done very diverse backgrounds. And it's that support of that career growth that really makes us stronger as an organization. But I will have very open, honest conversations with my people about what it is that they aspire to be and how I can help them on that journey, regardless of whether it benefits me directly with my own team or whether it benefits the organization. Sometimes it may even be you're better off outside the organization, and that's okay too. But we have a responsibility as a leader for our people and their continued growth and development.
Okay, so Simon, my experience tells me that your response there is going to resonate with a lot of folks. The literature out there, most of it will declare that that's actually going to attract top talent, which we know is a huge issue for organizations today, is of course finding top talent. So another important insight you just shared. But I'm going to come back to the challenge that one of our participants today, I don't have time to even have that conversation. Come on, how do you do that, Simon? I don't have time. It's too crazy right now. How would you coach me?
I would say, let's talk about what the priorities are. And honestly, sure, we all have to do firefighting. We absolutely do. But it doesn't make those strategic conversations any less important. Yeah. And, I would make sure that you carve out time to have those conversations and move that forward. Certainly, I take the opportunity, just a practical thing, I take the opportunity to block out people's calendars, every couple of weeks, just to have a check-in point and say, where are you at? What's on your mind right now? Where do you want to go in the future? How can I help? Is there something I can do more of, better or different to help you along that way? It's you can't afford not to make the time.
I'm going to be coming back to Sherilyn in our network, but for me, then it's that age-old wisdom of saying when I declare I don't have time, what I'm really declaring is it's not a big enough priority.
Correct.
And I'm actually revealing that to the people around me, being a victim to that versus actually saying it's just not a big enough priority for me. I appreciate that reminder, Simon.
Correct.
Sherilyn, let's go back to our network. What do we have for insights or inquiries?
Yeah, this is actually related to the topic of teams. The question is, Simon, given how busy your role is, especially now, how do you create or maintain balance for yourself and for your team?
Balance. What a great question. I think it's really important to add in the life elements as well. So some of the things that we do as a team and team building in this virtual world, we'll do virtual cocktail hours just to hang out and be social because we're not in the office and want to build that relationship. I think a big part for me personally is in getting outside and getting out to the forest. I'm a recovering ultra runner. I've run some pretty serious races, like the Canadian Death Race, which is a 125-kilometer running race. That is key to keeping my mental health in check and being able to make that transition from the busy workday and clearing my mind and getting more to a sustainable point and a happy place. Getting out in nature is a big recovery for me. And when I look across my own team, they all have good outside pursuits that they dedicate their time to have that break, whether it's something sporting, something hobbyish. I mean, I work in a technical field with software developers. A lot of them are into gaming or role-playing games. You've got to have that outlet to maintain that balance. I think it's certainly challenging in today's world. I'm old enough to remember the time before Blackberries and smart devices and the constant stream of emails. I actually bought my wife a Faraday box for Christmas one year. So the phones go into the box during meal times so that we are solely focused on the interaction with our family and with our children. But it's certainly tough to achieve that balance. And it tends to swing in one direction or the other. If someone has the magic formula, I'm all ears on how that works out. But I think you just, part of it is being conscious of where you're spending your time.
Simon, I think that's critical. There's a leader working with that shared this insight with their team as we were working with them, and I think it was an insight for me. This idea, there's this tendency to want to get rid of the tension as it relates to balance, right? And this leader actually said, no, actually the tension doesn't go away. There's always going to be the tension. The objective here is to live within that tension and live our priorities. I found that really useful because I think I was looking for the magic formula.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate your comments because our question today, our big question, I appreciate the participants sharing that question. How do you focus on tomorrow when today is so important? I think you're reminding us that, wow, it really starts with us. Could we declare that if you as a professional aren't working a plan for healthier, mental health, physical health, spiritual health, whatever, collective health, if you're not working a plan, you are increasingly at a disadvantage as relates to your sustainability, right? Your ability to contribute. Is that too grandiose to declare, or how does that sit with you?
I don't think so. I mean, I think I've got a reasonable example. When we talk about doing our annual plans, we might put out a strategic goal or a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal that we want to achieve. In the same way that we do that in business, I have that same sort of goal setting in my personal life as an athlete, as a father, as a husband. I actually have up on the wall behind me, and you can't really see it, but it's on my whiteboard, I have my own personal mission statement for what I want to achieve in life. And oddly enough, nothing in there is specifically related to business. It's all about having, unlimited amounts of positive energy, wanting to be the best ever for my family, my children, for myself, investing the time to make those things real. And it's something I see every day as I'm exiting my office door. I see that and I'm like, yep, did you do that today? Check in with yourself. You need to, it's important to have those moments of reflection.
100% agree with you. Sherilyn, I'm going to come back to you in just a moment here. One of the members of our huddle here is talking about risk, is mentioning and reminding me around risk, and of course preparing for tomorrow while delivering today. And of course, with the volatility, there's more risk for organizations, which we could then make the logical leap to saying, wow, so the pressure's on to deliver with excellence because there's so many things at play, which then has a tendency, if I'm the leader, right, I've got to overmanage you. I can't develop you. I can't allow you to learn from your mistakes because we can't afford mistakes right now. So let's explore that a little bit, Simon. What's in your mind, and give us some practical tips around ensuring that our team members can experiment, can learn, can take the appropriate risk as it relates to it preparing for tomorrow.
Yeah. So within our leadership at Jabil, we're guided by a set of principles that we're evaluated against, each and every year. And one of the core principles there is how to provide a safe environment for people to develop and grow. Our CEO has said publicly on earnings calls, he said, you'll never get fired from making a mistake, but you'll get fired for hiding it. And it's about making it safe for people to speak truth to power and be able to say, I made a mistake here. I'm going to hold myself accountable and responsible for this. This is how we safeguard it for the future. It's almost like a lean Six Sigma principle, which is very, very much ingrained in manufacturing. But, making sure that I give people the freedom to try out some innovative ideas and fail fast is absolutely key. And, one of the things I say to my team often is that we rarely learn through success. We learn through failure because, you take it personally, you feel accountable for it, you feel responsible, you want to change that around. In terms of our planning cycle, we'll set a goal together. We'll say what success looks like at the end of that, but the path from point A to point B is really up to them, how they achieve on that goal. If we're agreed that that is the goal, it's up to you on how you get there. And I think making it safe for people and not having, a fear of any kind of retribution enables them to truly innovate. And I see that in the products that we build and develop. People come up with very innovative ideas that I would have never thought of myself. And I firmly believe that the only reason that idea was able to become something real was because the freedom is there to go and explore it without fear of reprisal.
Okay, so let's drill down on that a little bit. So I'm working with the team here just a few weeks ago, and here was the dynamic. Let's say I work for you. And then your boss, though, is they might say the same thing you just said, but their actions are completely different. I mean, there are consequences. You make a mistake, and I get branded as a failure. It's a blame culture approach with that particular leader. Give our participants in the huddle today some tips as it relates to what you can do if your upline doesn't walk the talk in this regard.
Sure. Yeah. Some of the, I would go back again to that recipe for partnership. And I've done that with leaders above me many times when it's been questioned of the value of a particular program or product that we're producing, and talking about, what's working well with this? What value is that creating? How can we extend that and build it even further? And it's important to me to uncover that feedback from those leaders as well, because it's rarely, 100%, I disagree completely with everything that you're doing, everything is terrible. It's normally one or two little elements that they have issue with. So it's about getting to the root of that problem and that challenge as where they see it. I worked with a great leader when I first joined Jabil, and one of his phrases was that problems are treasures. So if you have that problem from a leader and you work through it, you can transform that person into your champion. As long as you're willing to engage in the conversation, you don't take it personally, you take the criticism. It's important to hear those things and understand the root of the problem, and then have a discussion about how to move it forward out of that, the backside of the energy map, right?
Simon's referencing, of course, the popular energy map. 3 parts to it are focus, backward focus with my emotions, or neutral. It's centered on data or facts, or of course, forward focus with our emotional energy. Another powerful tool.
Yeah.
Simon, we're going to go to our network now. I've got several more questions. And of course, these are the fastest 50 minutes in the history of humankind. It always is. Sherilyn, let's go to our network. What else we got for questions?
Yeah, Craig, you said you have some questions, and our network has some questions too. So I want to have at least 2 opportunities.
Perfect.
But the one question I have that came in through the chat was, what are some of the specific strategies that you found effective in skill development, knowing that the desire to learn and ability to learn varies within the workforce?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a case of not a one size fits all. People learn in different ways, and certain things will be more appealing than others. I think that some of the most valuable training that I've been through, certainly a lot of the elements from Veris. I mean, it is my Bible. I was a graduate of Pathways to Leadership a really long time ago, but my book is well within reach every time I crack it open. I look at some of the tools and how they apply. But in terms of skills development for people, I look at what's their job function today, where I need them to be in terms of their rate of delivery and the skills they need to build. And then we'll talk about the most effective way to develop those skills. Some people are fans of remote learning, learn at your own pace. Others are more favorable of classroom training. Others want to do some other form, right? I think it's just, you need to be open to the different styles in which people learn and find valuable content. We'll also do things like make recommendations within our team. So the training that someone has been through will say, I found that really valuable. Here's why. These are the takeaways that I got from it. I think this would be valuable for these team members to go and accomplish. And it is that word of mouth and building that network and understanding how everyone learns in a different manner.
Got it. A good question. Let's hear the other one, Sherilyn.
Yeah, let me see. Okay, the other one. Simon, you spoke about having very tenured talent within your company. In the US, there's a lot of buzz around the Great Resignation, where half of the nation's workers could be changing jobs. How is Jabil addressing this, or how would you address this with the changing mix of experience on your team?
Sure. Yeah, I think there's absolutely a lot of movement and a lot of attrition around the organization. Some groups are more tenured than others. I would say people don't leave organizations, they leave bosses. If you're not a leader who's engaged with your people at a personal level and understand what's happening with them, and the grass may be greener somewhere else. But I think it plays more into the what we call direct labor, the people who are actually doing manufacturing. There's a lot of turnover there, but certainly in the more typically white collar roles, people in offices, there's far more tenured positions in those roles. But I haven't seen it within my own team, honestly. I think the shortest length of service within my team is 3 years, with the highest at 25. But the 3 years was someone that I'd brought in around a change management aspect, to really drive communications and get people to embrace change. But certainly, as I look around the organization, I'm not seeing the high levels of attrition that other companies are experiencing.
So Simon, I want to build on that. I can't be the only one in this huddle or in the Collaborative Leaders Network that just gets energized by leaders like you that have the, I'm going to use the word visionary, but that there's just an attraction, right? There's an affinity. And I see the stats out there. I'm sure everybody does, right? As a society, we're more angry than we're angrier than we've been for a long time. We're not excited about the future. We've got these doubts. There's more conflict and adversarial relationships and politics and business. I mean, it's just a crazy time. I wonder, is it what makes you tick? And I want to use this expression, and we've heard it all before, but is there a lack of, is it a failure of imagination of what's possible? When we get so mired in today, and I want to survive. My brain wants to keep me alive. So it's focusing on all my challenges, my problems. But then I'm around leaders like you, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's a path forward. Hey, we're going to make this work. We got this. And
Yeah.
So can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, I think it's, it's very interesting to me, the number of people that read management books looking for that silver bullet for how to run their team effectively. And for me, I think I just put way more emphasis on the human connection and, the hearts and minds and understanding motivation and desire and rallying people around a shared vision that is so important. But I think the best way to be an effective leader is just be human. Put yourself in that employee's shoes and understand where they're coming from. There's no silver bullet. We're all capable of empathy and, a discussion that's not strictly about the numbers and about the business. To make that human connection, to me, is what makes for a great leader. And I want to be authentic with my people and offer them transparency and honesty, even when it's hard, right? Let them know the conversations that are happening above me. Let them know how I feel about something or how I think about something. It's really just being an authentic human being. Honestly, there's no silver bullet. There's no management book that I'm like, read this and it'll make you better. Just go and be human.
A friend of mine, CEO for a large glass organization, once shared, I think we make leadership way more difficult than it needs to be. And you're recentering me anyway, and what's necessary to, of course, deliver today and plan for tomorrow. Very quickly, Sherilyn, any other questions from our network as we begin to round out our time together here?
Yeah, I think we're ready to wrap it up.
Okay. I do have one more quick question for you, Simon. What's one thing we can do if I'm an introvert and I've got enough of that inside of me to have empathy for those who are even more introverted than I am? What is one thing I can do in my next meeting to be more authentic, to be that human-centered leader? Give me a couple things that work for you, you've seen other successful leaders do.
Sure. I think, some of the things that I like to do is use like a meeting opener. Talk about something that may not necessarily be related to the work at hand, but something that's potentially happening in my personal life, a way to connect with people. I might talk about, hey, I was out in the forest yesterday, I was going for a run, and I saw this owl fly across the path. You know how rare and how special that is. All right, let's get down to business. It's making space to connect and asking. I ask a lot of questions about people's lives as well, not just about the business stuff. I'll say, how I know all of my people's partners, their kids, what grades they're in at school. Taking the time to engage with them is really important.
It's fascinating to use that expression. Thank you for reminding us this leader, global organization, Procter & Gamble, we all know them. once shared I was shadowing their team and they were doing similar, right? They were talking about life stuff, humanly connecting. And then another person said, okay, it's time to get down to business. And this leader, her first name's Kim, she actually spoke up and she said, actually, connecting as humans is our business. And actually, it was a jolt for me of reorienting around what's my role as a leader, and is that a part of our business or not? And so I appreciate you mentioned that phrase, right? It's triggering that memory for me, and I appreciate you modeling it for us here.
I think it's super interesting what's happened with this move to remote work as well. I feel that it's made us all more human with each other too. Being outside the office environment, I get to, if people turn on their cameras, I get to see their house. We get to see the disruptions when, kids come into the room, and the number of people that apologize for their child entering the screen. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry, hang on, and they mute themselves, the camera goes off, the kid disappears. I'm like, no, bring them over, say hi. One of the leaders I work with at Jable, he makes a point of getting them to unplug their headphones so that the sound comes out of the speaker. And that guy actually goes and says nice things about that particular person and how great they are at their job and how well they do at work. Yeah. And the impact there on a personal level is huge, right? So I think it's a great, as much as this pandemic has changed the world for a lot of us, I think it has actually deepened some of the connections for the personal aspects versus the business.
Simon, thank you so much. As we answer our question, how do I build for tomorrow and still deliver today? You've shared many points throughout our time together. We're going to be asking our network to participate with us as we round out our time together by sharing your insight in an instant. Your insight could be a new thought. It could be a reminder of something that's critical, something that you want to perhaps rededicate or reinforce in your leadership moving forward. I'll be asking Cheryl Lynn for hers in a moment. I'll share mine and then we'll finish with Simon's. A couple of things, of course, you heard during our time together, Simon's reference to the Pathways to Leadership program, delivered both virtually and continuing in person, the transformative approach to, of course, not just delivering those numbers, but also being the humans of building a culture, delivering on the human imperative so we can more effectively deliver on that business imperative. Our team is excited and honored to support so many organizations like Jable around the organization in that endeavor. Also want to share the resources. Of course, there's more than just this page. You recognize plenty of those platforms. And there's Jable's. I love Jable's vision there to be the most technologically advanced and trusted manufacturer and solutions provider. Truly an honor and a privilege getting a glimpse of how Jable operates today. A quick note, we're looking for even more guests that inspire us, that walk the talk as it relates to the values that are important to the Collaborative Leaders Network. If you know, we've got our list, but of course it's part of your network. And so if you have individuals that you think would be another worthy guest in the Collaborative Leaders Huddle, please reach out, let us know. I know Sherilyn and team would be happy to entertain those ideas and suggestions. All right, Sherilyn, our insight in an instant. What was yours today?
Yeah, I took so many notes. Just a couple off the top of my head, that we rarely learn through success, we learn through failure. I thought that was a great point from Simon. And just overall, I feel like this was a great huddle to remind me to just slow down and just be less transactional, especially with the limited time that we have. And then Craig, I liked what you said about when you say you don't have time, you're saying it's not a priority. And I think that's so important as we plan for next year and just finish out a really busy year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate that, Sherilyn. Sherilyn shares hers. I'm going to share mine. We invite you in the network to put yours in the chat space as well. Your contributions are always valued. Your insight in an instant. For me, Simon, it's related to Sherilyn's time comments, coming back to that ultimately it's my choice. And I want to come back to that idea you ignited around this visionary component, around having the composure, the confidence that we can prevail and building tomorrow, and building the resilient plans is just that key part. And you said the key to doing that is, of course, connecting with people. And so we kind of move through this time to connecting people, resilient plans, and more than ever to be thinking 5 years out. Simon, that's what I'm walking away with. How about you, Simon? Your insight in an instant.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with go be human.
Okay, that's it. That's the headline. Go be human. It works. Simon Yiannopoulos, thank you so much for your contributions today, and most importantly, for your world contributions through Jable. You rock, my friend. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, everybody. As we sign off, a reminder, your leadership matters, but ultimately only teams deliver. Enjoy the upcoming holidays. We'll look forward to our next Collaborative Leaders Huddle in the new year, 2022. See you then. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you. Thanks, Simon.